Dear colleagues and friends of refugees and friends of refugee protection, allow me to express my enormous gratitude for the opportunity to be here with you at the National Refugee Resettlement Forum and to speak about the protection imperatives for refugees, human beings who we all know for their courage, their resilience and their hope, often against all odds. And I take the opportunity to profoundly thank all of you who do essential work to ensure that refugees can find protection and that they can find support towards lasting solutions to their plight. Your efforts are crucial to refugees in many situations, here in New Zealand and around the globe. Because of the results we can jointly realize, but also because people see that you care. Because you are seen as the example of humanity in action. Refugees are human beings, like all of us, only with the misfortune of having to fear persecution because of their religion, their political opinion, their nationality, their sexual orientation, their ethnic background. The search for solutions needs to start at one important point: a recognition that refugees are not helpless objects, but the central contributors. Most unfortunately, these facts appear frequently lost in public debate or political slogans, particularly in some parts of the so-called developed world. Here, too often, refugees are portrayed as the problem, and global refugee issues are seen as too complicated, too overwhelming, and just too much to deal with and too much to resolve. Thus, the theme of this year's Resettlement Forum could not have been chosen more appropriately. Active participation, establishing a sense of belonging. I'm proud to be here with you all on behalf of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees to review and explore how we may do even better in our mutual endeavors, which are critical: one refugee family, and again. I'm proud, moreover, to stand side by side at this important event with distinguished colleagues who I know do not look at refugee protection as simply their job. Allow me to profoundly thank New Zealand and its people through thanking Associate Immigration Minister Craig Foss and Nigel Bickle, the Deputy Chief Executive of NBIE, for their commitment and dedication that they and you all have demonstrated over the many years. Never has this commitment and dedication been more crucial than it is today and in years to come. Again, one refugee family counts. Last year, I had too often the role of the messenger with the sad, though evident news that the world was becoming a more complex place, more so for refugees. There were more people forcibly displaced than at any time since most of us in this room were born. Efforts to find solutions to protracted refugee situations were by far outpaced by multiple emergencies, and resources were stretched to the limit. What have been the developments since we met at the forum last year? I'm afraid the news is worse. Not only the news, but the daily reality for refugees in too many places around the world. The numbers of people forcibly displaced continue to rise. In 2011, every single day, some 14,000 people worldwide were forced from their homes by war or violence. In 2012, 23,000 per day. In 2013, more than 32,000 people were forced to flee every day. That is a city the size of Wellington every week. And it is more than twice the figure only 2 years before. And the trend unfortunately continues. At the same time, drawn-out emergencies, Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mali, Somalia, and the many more forgotten conflicts all over the world continue to require significant attention and resources. But we all know that they are not getting sufficient attention of either. 4 years into the Syria crisis, there are nearly 4 million individually registered Syrian refugees in Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, Iraq, and Egypt, the largest refugee population under our mandate today. The magnitude of this drama has profoundly impacted on the neighboring countries that are so generously providing protection to those fleeing Syria. In Lebanon, the refugee situation has taken on a dimension we would have never been able to imagine before. So many people sought safety in Lebanon that with a population of 4 million, there are now well over 1 million refugees. The generosity of Syria's neighbors must be matched by much stronger international support. In addition to the ongoing Syria crisis, new and further amplified conflicts like in the Central African Republic, in South Sudan, the Ukraine, and more recently in Nigeria and Burundi have caused terrible human suffering and massive displacement. And the dramatic developments catching the eye of the public over the past weeks in the Bay of Bengal and the Andaman Sea and the wider region are only part of the sad news. Human suffering is on the increase, challenges are complex, and simple solutions do not work. This is the time for all of us to think more bravely, to think more comprehensively, to join forces, to maintain a firm commitment to proven principles, and to vigorously press on with a tough job of ensuring that old traditions of asylum for the persecuted are reinvigorated. In Greece, more than 2,000 years ago, Euripides famously said, "There is no greater sorrow than the loss of one's native land." With the turmoil of today's world, we will not be able to resolve all of the root causes quickly enough before another family, before many families, will suffer this great sorrow. But we can ensure that many of these families shall be able to establish a new sense of belonging. And while the many conflicts around the globe today seem to be fueled by the absence of a world order, I am confident that through the efforts by New Zealand in the United Nations Security Council, important steps may be taken to redress not only individual crises, but more importantly, the underlying parameters for the global state of affairs. This is not the time to despair. This is the time to remember the lessons of history. This is the time to exercise international responsibility sharing, and this is the time to be proud for doing the right things. It is fundamental to uphold asylum and to ensure that fair and effective refugee status determination procedures with appropriate safeguards are in place. Additional affirmations within the spirit of protection and the sharing of responsibility through resettlement are furthermore of critical importance. While resettlement can never be a substitute for asylum, it is greatly significant as a complement to asylum. An act and a vivid demonstration by a sovereign state and its people to show to the rest of the world that in addition to upholding the obligations enshrined in the Refugee Convention, the country is committed to working at a global level to support truly international protection systems. Let me thank all of you for ensuring that New Zealand is such a great example. As we increasingly design resettlement as part of a comprehensive response which enhances and supports the asylum capacity of hosting countries like Lebanon, its impact goes even beyond what is already offers as an individual protection tool. The optimization of efforts related to resettlement programs is also important, as the global scope compared to the number of refugees is quite disparate. Globally, resettlement offers protection and a durable solution to approximately 80,000 refugees each year from among the 12 million refugees under UNHCR's mandate. But these figures illustrate that there is only a relatively small number of resettlement places. UNHCR prioritizes the available quota on the basis of protection needs. There is no first in, first served approach to resettlement. Similarly, skills and qualifications are not reasons for any individual to be resettled, nor is an extended family link to a resettlement country. In fact, most refugees will never be able to access a resettlement place, even though within the over 12 million refugees today, we estimate that there will be 1.1 million in need of resettlement next year. This poses the question, what more can all of us do to appropriately address the compelling protection needs, where each and every resettlement place counts, where every resettlement decision allows an individual or a family to escape danger, to find a lasting solution, and to rebuild a life in a safe country. Looking at the challenges around the globe today, we clearly need to increase the number of places available. Just over the last 20 years, the number of resettlement partner countries could be raised from about 10 to nearly 30 states offering some form of resettlement or a humanitarian admissions program. This has been an enormous achievement. At the same time, the actual number of resettlement places available has not increased significantly. In some countries, the quota has in fact rather declined when one relates it to the portion of the population or the gross domestic product. In addition to much needed and appreciated increases in the resettlement quota, other important contributions could be made in the context of some resettlement partner countries by ensuring that family reunification is dealt with outside the core quota, thereby increasing the capacity available to protection priority resettlement. Another option may be to offer emergency or large-scale crisis allocations in addition to the quota. This would recognize the exceptional nature of such needs when they arise without reducing capacity available to ongoing resettlement commitments. Eventually, and unrelated to any resettlement program, countries may want to consider opening immigration programs more consciously and systematically to refugees. Many refugees have talents, experiences, and expertise which should make them ideal candidates for work-related immigration programs, for example. However, too often are they referred to the limited refugee-specific options. Innovative thinking in this area could provide significant win-win opportunities. In considering a possible increase of resettlement, one concern of some states is how to balance humanitarian work, which is by its nature often delves deep into some of the world's most troubled regions, with the imperative of maintaining national security and managing risk. National security, in fact, global security, is of fundamental importance, more so for refugees who precisely have to flee because of a threat to their security or a breakdown of national security in their country. The key here is to appreciate that national security and refugee protection are not placed in contradiction. Rather, they need to be viewed in a complementary manner, just like national security and democracy. It is not one or the other. The challenge is how to deal with national security in a manner which best ensures that values and principles of democracy and of refugee protection are upheld. The question is how to develop protection-sensitive approaches in a national and global security context. UNHCR works closely with resettlement states to ensure that individuals put forward for resettlement are identified accurately, their claims to refugee status assessed with rigor, and any exclusion triggers, such as the commission of war crimes or crimes of humanity, are brought to light. All cases referred are then reviewed and cross-checked by competent authorities in the immigration, medical, and security sphere of the receiving state. Thus, when it comes to controls, a proactive approach to risks and the careful exercise of security measures, the resettlement program in virtually all of our partner countries is the most advanced path of entry. Another important area to appreciate in the resettlement context is, of course, settlement and integration over time, particularly when we look at the effectiveness of resettlement programs as a durable solution. If refugees were simply evacuated to a place where they are safe from immediate danger, but do not have the support needed to rebuild their lives sustainably in safety and with dignity, it would only ever be a temporary measure, important as that may be in itself. Ensuring that quota refugees are supported from their arrival and orientation through to achieving a growing sense of belonging and participation over time has been one of the exemplary strengths of the New Zealand program. Successful settlement programs are responsive to the needs of resettled refugees themselves, to learn from them what they need to recover, rebuild, and prosper. Notwithstanding the strong support New Zealand offers, it is encouraging to see ongoing consultation between the communities, service providers, and government of some new initiatives. Refugee resettlement strategy has been implemented. For some, it may be a relatively straightforward process which quickly enables them to start building a new life in New Zealand. For others, trauma, age, cultural disconnects, or separation from family members who are still in danger could be some of many barriers to full participation. Participation and belonging are long-term goals that will look different for different refugees, and different individuals will need different levels and forms of support over time. For that reason, it is much appreciated that this forum dedicates 2 days to work closely across the sector, not least of all with the refugee voices and community representatives as active participants, to continue to develop and build settlement capacity towards achieving that sense of security and belonging as a New Zealander. Dear friends, refugees by definition are human beings who fear persecution because of their beliefs, their opinion, their ethnic background. They had to flee their homes, their countries. They often had to leave behind their loved ones, often their possessions, in many instances, much of what made their lives. Yet they have frequently displayed enormous courage. They maintain their hopes. Refugees need our support to be protected and rebuild their lives. Moreover, they deserve our respect. Let us vigorously explore throughout this forum how the active participation of refugees may further contribute to our joint efforts directed at establishing a sense of belonging, and beyond that, a sense of contributing to the benefit of this great society. In closing, allow me to express UNHCR's gratitude to you for recognizing the human wrongs and for upholding and advancing human rights. I would like to salute all of you for being friends of refugees and for upholding the highest human and humanitarian values, not only by what you say, but by what you do. Thank you.